On the island of Okinawa, in the southernmost part of Japan, there is a village called Ojimi. It has been called the Village of Longevity because the people who live there regularly live past 100 years old, not just surviving, but working, laughing, gardening, connecting with their communities, fully alive, fully present, fully engaged with every single day. Scientists from around the world have traveled to Ojimi trying to understand why. They studied the diet, they studied the genetics, they studied the environment. But what they found was something nobody expected. The single most powerful factor in the extraordinary longevity of the people of Okinawa was not what they ate, not how they exercised, not even their genetics. It was something they called ikigai, a word that has no direct translation in any other language, but points to something so fundamental, so deeply human, that once you understand it, you will never see your life the same way again. Ikigai roughly translates as the reason you wake up in the morning, not your job, not your ambition, not your achievements, but the thing that makes existence itself feel worthwhile. The thing that when you are doing it, time disappears, worry fades, and you feel completely alive. And neuroscience has now discovered that this is not just a beautiful idea. It is a biological reality that physically rewires the brain. In 2010, neuroscientist Richard Davidson at the University of Wisconsin conducted a groundbreaking study on purpose in the brain. He found that people who had a strong sense of meaning and purpose in their lives showed measurably different brain activity from those who didn't. Specifically, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for focus, emotional regulation, and long-term thinking, was significantly more active. And the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center responsible for anxiety, fear, and stress, was significantly less reactive. Purpose literally calms the brain. It shifts the nervous system from a state of survival into a state of growth, from fighting the present moment into building towards something beyond it. And the people of Okinawa had been doing this instinctively for thousands of years. But here's where Ikigai goes deeper than simply finding your passion. Because in Western culture, we are told to find our passion and turn it into a career. Follow your dreams, do what you love, and the money will follow. But this advice has left millions of people more lost than before. Because passion alone is not ikigai. The Japanese concept is built on 4 intersecting questions. The first, what do you love? The second, what are you good at? The third, what does the world need? The fourth, what can you be paid for? Ikigai lives at the center, where all 4 answers overlap. Not just passion, not just skill, not just usefulness, not just income, but the place where all of them converge into a single point of complete alignment. And here is what makes this neurologically extraordinary. When a human being operates from that place of alignment, the brain releases a specific cocktail of neurochemicals. Dopamine, the chemical of motivation and reward. Serotonin, the chemical of contentment and belonging. Oxytocin, the chemical of connection and trust. Endorphins, the chemical of resilience and flow. All 4, simultaneously. This is the neurochemical signature of what psychologist Csikszentmihalyi called flow state, the experience of being so completely absorbed in meaningful activity that the boundary between self and world dissolves, that time stops, that effort becomes effortless, that you feel not just alive, but perfectly, exactly where you are supposed to be. The people of Okinawa don't call it flow state. They call it ikigai. And they don't reserve it for special moments. They build it into the texture of ordinary life. The 102-year-old woman who tends her garden every morning, not because she has to, but because the garden gives her life meaning. The 98-year-old man who teaches martial arts to young people, not for money, but because passing on knowledge is the reason he wakes up. The 95-year-old fisherman who still goes to sea every morning, not because he needs to work, but because the sea is where he feels most himself. This is Ikigai in its purest form, not a grand life purpose discovered in a single moment, but a quiet, daily, renewable sense that what you are doing matters, that you matter. And this is where philosophy adds something neuroscience cannot. Aristotle called this eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but more accurately understood as human flourishing. Not the happiness of pleasure, not the happiness of comfort, not the happiness of getting what you want, but the deep, sustained, unshakable sense of living in alignment with your highest nature, of becoming, fully, what you are capable of being. Aristotle argued that this was not a feeling, it was an activity, something you did every day through deliberate choices, deliberate practice, deliberate engagement with what mattered most. The Stoics built on this. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a man's life is what his thoughts make it, that the quality of your existence is determined not by what happens to you, but by what you give your attention to. And modern neuroscience confirms that where attention goes, neural pathways grow. What you focus on literally becomes more real in your brain, more wired in, more automatic, more you. Which means if you spend your attention on what is missing, your brain builds pathways of lack. If you spend your attention on what is meaningless, your brain builds pathways of emptiness. But if you spend your attention on what matters, on what aligns with your deepest values, on the intersection of love, skill, need, and contribution, your brain builds pathways of purpose, of resilience, of the quiet, unshakable sense that your life means something. This is not mysticism. This is neuroscience. This is what the people of Okinawa have known for 1,000 years. And this is what Ikigai offers not as a destination, but as a daily practice, a way of asking every single morning, what do I love? What am I good at? What does the world need from me today? What can I contribute? Not perfectly, not grandly, not in a way that changes the entire world, but in a way that makes this one day feel worth living. Because the research is clear. People who have Ikigai live longer, get sick less often, recover faster from adversity, report higher levels of satisfaction, and face death with significantly less fear. Not because their lives were easier, but because their lives felt directed, pointed towards something, connected to something, meaningful, in the deepest sense of that word. And here's the most important thing the people of Ojimi can teach us. Ikigai does not have to be extraordinary. The 102-year-old woman's garden is not changing the world, but it is changing her world every single morning, one plant at a time. Your Ikigai does not have to be a mission. It just has to be yours, real, specific. Something that when you are doing it, makes you feel like yourself, most fully, most completely, most alive. That feeling is not an accident. It is your brain telling you something important. Listen to it. Because somewhere at the intersection of what you love, what you are good at, what the world needs, and what you can offer, your reason for waking up is waiting. It always has been. This is Veil of Being. Subscribe. Because some questions don't just seek answers. They change how you see reality.